Hi, Bloom. It's nice to meet you. My name is Michelle, and I'm a writer for NextShark. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's nice to meet you, Michelle.
Thank you. Awesome. So, Chang Can Dunk is your first Disney movie and actually your first ever feature-length film ever, right?
Uh, so I have shot a feature length film one prior to
Okay.
it, but it's still like in post production. So
Awesome.
by all like accounts of the measure, this is
Hmm.
my first feature length film, or
Nice.
it'll be my first feature length debut. Yeah,
Okay, awesome. That's great. So, congratulations on that.
thank
Um,
you.
Before we get into the questions, why don't we start with a background on you? Tell me a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and what led you to the lead role in this Disney film.
Oh man, that's a that's a long journey. I was born to Chinese immigrants in New York City, in like Chinatown. So I spent the first couple of years of my life in Chinatown in New York, and then we moved to Brooklyn and then to Jersey, for like my high school. Um, and then I went to UCLA for college, and that's how I started acting. And then after college, I just started auditioning for like professional projects, and I guess that is the kind of uh surface level like journey of like how I got to uh be in this movie.
Hmm.
But I think for me it's like I think growing up, uh I don't know, like the world and life like didn't really make sense to me a lot of the times. And it was only through acting that I started to like,
Hmm.
I don't know, really feel that I was doing something that not just that I loved, but like that was actually complementing and supplementing and like making my life more interesting and making me more interested as like a person. So like for me, like acting became kind of it is a career, but also just became kind of like a lifestyle in some ways.
Hmm.
And then the Chang role was an open call. And then at that point I had done a bunch of like shorts and like been on some TV shows and that stuff. And I was like thinking about like writing and like directing and like all these other things, but it was an open call and I just submitted and I got casted. So it's pretty like straightforward.
Yeah, it's
Does that make
great.
sense?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, this is, a momentous moment in your life where you can look back and reflect on how far you've come in your acting career. Like you said, you starred in numerous short films that, have gone on to play in film festivals. But how would you describe this experience specifically, knowing that the movie will be streamed on Disney Plus around the world?
The experience of being in the film and like going through the process of shooting was like one of the best experiences in my life, right? Doing something challenging with really incredible people, incredible artists, my cast, the crew, the director, everybody involved, right? So that was amazing. And I think now after like post production and everything, and now it's finally coming out. Um, it's weird because I'm really excited to see how people react to it. You know what I mean? Like I had my experience like shooting the film, right? And like I'm not shooting the film anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So now I'm like promoting the film and talking about the film. And I think acting, at least film itself, is it's a communal art form. You know what I mean? Like we don't act for like the void. We don't act for like nothing. You know, we act for people to like respond to. And like we make films for people to like respond to. So like I'm really excited for it to kind of go out into the world and just kind of like hear from people about how they responded to it.
Mhm.
And it being on Disney is crazy because like growing up, like the Disney has kind of I only had like I don't know a couple of TV channels growing up, and Disney Channel was like one of them. And
Yeah.
like it became like kind of a some of the movies on there were like movies that I remember like very distinctly. And to realize that Chang could be this movie for some kids is I don't know. It's really humbling. It's really emotional. It's really I just I just hope that it is useful for somebody. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you say, you grew up watching Disney Channel, Disney shows and movies.
Hmm.
But nowadays, right, obviously there's been a lot more diversity in film and TV. But I'm curious, what was it like for you back then when, kids would actually still watch TV and wait for their favorite shows to come on? Yeah, what was it like for you growing up back then, as an Asian American kid?
Um, yeah, so for me, I grew up mainly in communities of immigrants, right?
Mhm.
Um, so in Chinatown, it's mainly like Chinese American immigrants, and then I grew up around a lot of like South American immigrants. So like the immigrant experience was always like part of my life. So it never felt obviously I knew I was Asian, right? But I knew everybody else was something else as well. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think I was always like a lonely kid. But I don't think that had really I don't think like race or being Asian was like the biggest aspect of that.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so I think for me it's like, I went back to China a bunch of times growing up. I saw, and I speak my dialect at home with my parents.
that's great.
Which is like, yeah, which is like separate from Mandarin itself, and which I can also speak. So I'm pretty like being Asian in America is like a completely different conversation, right? I don't know how deep we're supposed to go in this interview, but
No, I totally
um
understand you. I get it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
okay, let's move on. Before you, got started in acting, I'm
yeah.
wondering if your family has always been supportive of you when you decided that acting is what you want to do. Because as we both may know, careers in the creative industry aren't always very appealing to our Asian parents.
I don't know. My parents came to America, like my dad graduated from high school, my mom graduated from middle school, and then they started working right away. So my dad and mom are both tailors, and they've worked in a garment factory my entire life. So basically just like making clothes. You know what I mean? So growing up, they really like prioritized like education for me because they saw that was like the way of like upward mobility. You know what I'm saying? Because being a garment maker, working with your hands, there's a ceiling of how much you can actually do, right? So when I told them I was going to be an actor, um, man, it's incomprehensible for them. You know what I'm saying? So like being incomprehensible, the first like reaction that people have to something they don't understand is like usually like fear and kind of like anger and like just like rejection and all these things. So like it's been tough in some aspects. Like my biggest like emotional strife in my life as I have like pursued this career has been like dealing and like working with my parent, and not being and like I mean I've learned a lot,
Mhm.
because I know where like their care comes from. It comes from a place of like love and like like them coming to America like when they did and like not knowing any English and like that's a scary world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and like kind of like I think when I first started I was like just like mad that they wouldn't support me. And then after I've like matured a bit, I started to realize that like, oh no, like there's like a lot more to this, right?
Mhm.
And also, to be fair, like I'm really grateful that they challenged me so much.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I think if they like supported me off the bat, I wouldn't have built up a lot of resilience
Mhm.
because it's really difficult to like have your biggest haters in your life be your parents and
Right.
then continue to do what you want to do, right? So I think that's like really prepped me to kind of just like handle all of this and handle all the pressure and everything, if that makes sense.
Are they supportive of you now? How do they, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like a slow process.
Mhm.
They are. It's funny because like when the trailer dropped,
Mhm.
um, they both came up to like my room at separate times, like and like with the trailer on the YouTube video, and they're like, "How do we like this? Like, like how do we?" They like kept to trying to click the like button, and I'm like, "No, like, you have to like create." like a Google account and like blah 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 blah. I'm like, it's fine, don't worry about it. Like the likes don't matter. But I thought it was like really cute that like at separate times, like throughout that day, like they came up and like try to like the video. And I think for me that is, I don't know, like that gesture means a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm really happy that, they're starting to support you now. So I want to know, what does this film mean to you and to your younger self and, well, to your family now on a personal level?
I think this film is about like, first of all, I think it is like an underdog story, right? And I think anybody can relate to that, right? On the most general, like overall level, it's like an underdog story. It's like for me, for any moments in my life, even being an actor, right? When I felt like the underdog, what does that mean? That means like you have to overcome these challenges that at times feel like insurmountable. So that movie, that's what that means for me, right? But even at the core, I feel like at the core of the movie, this movie is about a kid like trying to be seen, trying to find love, not romantic love, not any kind of familial, like all of it, all love, just like love, just trying to be seen. And I think as a child of immigrants, like the no, it can feel that no one sees you. You know what I'm saying? Like your parents or your family don't really see you because their like, lived experience is so different from you. The country you're in doesn't really see you because of who you are, or your skin color, or any of these things. So you're always trying to be seen and like find love. And like I think in a lot of those cases, that desire kind of leads one down certain paths that might not be the best too. You know what I mean? Because like I don't know. I think growing up, I felt like I had to figure out so many things on my own, you know? So for me, this movie is like, I would have loved to see this movie because it would have been like, oh no, like I know there's someone out there that like kind of gets it, you know?
You're becoming the role model you would want your younger self to look up to. So that alone is an accomplishment. That's awesome. In Chang Can Dunk, right? You portray a main character named Bernard Chang, and this character,
Yeah.
an unpopular high school kid who loves basketball and Pokemon. I want to know if you relate to Chang in any way. Are you also a basketball fanatic, or would you say Kobe is also your idol?
Yeah, I love basketball. That's my favorite sport. I played basketball like my entire life. Um, it was like it was how I like bonded with friends growing up. So I also played in high school. I only played for a year though, and then I kind of switched to like track and field as like my main athletic focus. Um, I love Kobe. I think growing up on the East Coast, I think I like more of the East Coast players, like Derrick Rose or like Dwayne Wade. Um, but I think as I've gotten older and like matured more, like Kobe's mentality, and like his mindset and quote unquote like Mamba mentality has been I've learned a lot from, especially from doing this movie as well. Yeah. Being an unpopular kid in high school though, not really, no. I think I was more popular than Chang, honestly. I like it was easier for me to like make friends. Obviously I had like my middle school years and like my elementary school years where I wasn't like the most popular kid. Um, but regardless of like the outward circumstances, I think I really, even though I had friends, more and more friends or like was popular, quote unquote, relatively. I think I felt a lot of the same things that Chang felt, and like continued to feel.
So since this is your first debut movie, right? How did you prepare yourself for the role, and did you face any challenges?
So there was like the physical aspect, right? There was like training to dunk, getting into like good good basketball shape. So I had like a month of training beforehand. So I was just like working out and like squatting and like doing all the things that you do to like jump higher.
Did you already know how to dunk, or did you actually have to learn it in this film?
Okay, so I've been like not to this is not being like arrogant, but I have done sports my entire life, right? So like like the training aspect and like all these things I was very familiar with. but before the film, I like couldn't even touch the rim. I was very close, but I couldn't even touch it.
Mhm.
And after like a good amount of training, I was able to like get a lot of my hand over it. Um, so it's like I can get up there, but I still can't dunk. I think I need like another. I think I need another year of training to dunk.
Mhm.
Um, the thing is, like, I'm the same height as Chang, right? Maybe like half an inch taller. So like for me to dunk, or for Chang to dunk, it's like you have to jump like 40 inches. You know what I mean? Which is like in the 99th percentile of like jumping.
Right.
Which is like it's a movie. You know what I mean? But I had to train in the sense that I had to make sure my technique was correct. Um, I had to make sure it looked right. I had to get better in basketball shape. So there was that whole. This is like a sports movie. Like as an actor, like filming this, I was like, oh no, like this is like a sports movie. There are days on set where I was just like running and everything. Um, and on the acting and so but then also I played basketball my entire life, you know what I'm saying? So like it was very familiar. It's like I feel like basketball is one of those things that like if you haven't played like and you try to like pretend on film, it's like it looks kind of sus.
Mhm.
Um and yeah, for the acting thing, I don't know. I think the Chang's like emotionality was very familiar to me. So like it wasn't too hard to like kind of, just read the script a billion times.
In the sense you got to be yourself in that way, but you also were able to push yourself as an actor. So I'm curious, what was your experience like on set? How was it like working with Xiao, the director, and your coworkers?
Yeah, again, I think it was one of like the best experiences of my life. All my co-stars, from Dexter, Marty, Zoe, Ben, Chase, like these are some of the most talented people I've ever worked with. Um, so like, and we're homies, like we're friends. We actually like each other. So like having that cast, for a first time movie was like I don't know. It was it's incredible. You know what I mean? Because like I quote unquote I am the lead, right? But like it's like if all my other castmates like hate me or some shit, like that would suck. Because I'm still having to like do all this shit and while other people like be hating on me. You know what I mean? So like I'm super happy that we like each other and like I respect them as artists. They're all doing they are doing and will continue to do amazing things and they're all like popping off. So like I don't know. I love them. There's this one day when we're shooting in the gym. It was like it's kind of a really important scene. The entire marching band was there. Most of the cast was there. The marching band is like an actual high school marching band that came that is in the movie. So they were hyped in the gym, and we were all hyped in the gym, and we were shooting the scene, and like just like screaming and yelling and like just fun. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the movie we filming sometimes can feel like, oh, like you're just like setting up shots and then you're shooting, but like this was just like straight hype. And to have like everyone there, like all the kids from the school, having fun, and then all my castmates there, like enjoying, like just feeding off of that energy. Um, and you kind of forget about like the scale of everything. You kind of forget about like, oh, like this is a big movie. You kind of forget about all these things, and you kind of could just like live in like the excitement of the scene and like really just like have fun, you know. And I think that's like I was like, oh, it's like, oh, and to know that for like a lot of these like marching band kids from Bunnell, it's like, oh no, like this will be something like you remember for a really really long time. And like to be able to be there for that and like to help, you know, support that, it was like really special for me.
All right, so Bloom, while this film was directed by an Asian man and, it stars Asian actors like yourself, I do have to address that some readers don't, NextShark readers particularly don't like the film title Chang Can Dunk, with, some people noting that the character name comes off as racist or insensitive. I want to know what are your thoughts on this and on the movie title Chang Can Dunk specifically.
I think the conversation for like a Asian person and a non-Asian person is very different. right? So my answer is just going to be directed towards like the Asian people who like feel that. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like I don't like, you know, I can also just like the non-Asian people that feel like it's racist, but I feel like the Asian people who feels like it's racist is
Okay,
like
yeah,
the people that is more important to like address it to. You know what I mean?
sure, for sure.
Um, I understand the outlash, right? Like I understand the feeling that it's racist because like, you know, I think being Asian in America, you get called names that are not your names, are just like random general Asian names. You get called like sounds that sound like Asian languages that aren't Asian languages. And I think a lot of us have grown up with that, right? And are triggered by that. You know what I mean? So I completely understand why there is that response from some people. Um, but I think to break it down a little bit more, right? Chang is a last name. You know what I mean? Like Chang is a lot of people's last names. Um, and there's nothing inherently racist about Chang, right? Like it's just a name, right? We I like it, I saw a comment. I saw a comment and it was like they should have just named him like Jimmy.
Mhm.
And I was like, all right, you want this movie to be called Jimmy Can Dunk? Like that's like a whack ass title, right? Like why did this person feel like they wanted to become Jimmy? It's because they wanted to. It's because that way they're no longer described as Asian. They become more nondescript, you know. And I think that kind of goes into the idea of like whitewashing ourselves in a way, or become more conforming. So like the Asian name becomes more like Americanized, like ain't you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like I feel like by, you know, by being like, I want this name to be more like Western sounding is kind of like a self erasure that I think a lot of Asians have in response to like racism we face growing up, you know, to disappear into like, so we don't stand out, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think that's where I think, and I understand that, right? But I think if COVID has showed us anything, right? No matter how much we try to blend into and tell everybody how like American or like how we're just like everybody else, like we can't hide our skin color. You know what I mean? So I think it's like for me, I hope it's like, you know, like I have mixed feelings about it. You know, when I saw the name, I didn't really mind. You know what I mean? Because like I like being Asian,
Right.
right? Like it didn't feel like racist to me, right? It's like who taught us to hate ourselves? You know what I mean? Like who taught us to hate what we are,
Mhm.
right? And for me, that's like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope that anyone that thinks the name is racist or like there are ill intentions behind the project watches it and like I don't know, feels pride in who they are.
Mhm.
Um, because that's like, you know,
Yeah.
I think Asians are amazing. You know, I think we're amazing and I love us. So like and again, like this is all to say that I understand why, right?
Mhm.
Um, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is a pretty complex film that I'm sure will resonate with a lot of audiences. I personally picked up a lot of lessons in the film, which, tackles family dynamics, friendships, self discovery, and, well, the definition of success, right? So, out of all these lessons, what message would you say resonated with you specifically?
Okay. I think Chang is like so resilient. Right? And I think that for me is like the lesson. It's like it's like trust yourself and like go after not go after what you want to like I think that's the lesson in the movie, right? Go after what you want just to go after what you want and not for anybody else's like group, right? And if you do that, if you trust yourself, like people will be affected and changed by that. You know what I mean? Or like it is like what like I think Chang is really looking for is like self belief and like self confidence, and that's like something we work towards, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and you need a lot of resilience back because like there's a lot of haters out there. Um, you know what I mean? So it's like I think that is like it's like resilience and also like realize like how much love is already in your life, even though a lot of times it doesn't feel like it, you know? And like because you're gonna need that during this like journey of like trying to do what you want to do or like live a life that you like. Yeah.
Yeah. So for viewers of this film, can you talk a little bit about what they can expect and, what can people learn from the movie? Why should they watch it? And, do you have a message for anybody who's thinking, should I watch this or not?
Uh it's an underdog story, right? It's really inspiring. It's really hype. It's a really quick watch. I think it flows like really like quick. You know what I mean? Um, and I think it's like it's a really fun movie. Again, it's a really fun movie. It's an underdog story, and I think so. It's surprising in a lot of aspects, right? So it's just a great time, honestly. And like what I want people to take away from it, and like take whatever you want away from it. I think for me, it's like I put everything into the film. You know what I mean? And like anything I say now is like kind of it's just like a like dressing. You know what I mean? Like the bulk of the meal is like in the movie. It's like there. So like see it, take it, hate it, love it. Like you can do like whatever. You know what I mean? But I hope you respond. I hope that you respond. I hope something in it is you can like jump off of or like relate to or respond to or even hate on. Like it's okay. You know? That's part of life and like hopefully like through this process we continue to get better, we continue to create more and inspire more and like all these other this is just the beginning, I think, for me and like for I think for our community and it's just a start, you know what I mean? So like let's get dirty with it, like let's just go, let's do it,
All right, so to wrap up our interview, what's next for you? Because I'm sure you're gonna gain a lot of new fans after this movie comes out, and I think you're a great actor. So yeah, what can we expect from Bloom Lee next?
I appreciate it. Right now there's like some stuff in the works, obviously, but I think I obviously want to continue to act as much as possible. Maybe I'll get into like writing and directing down the line. But for me, it's like it's always been I just wanted to be the best actor that I can possibly be. You know what I'm saying? And I think for me, like more than the conversations of like representation and like um the like more than like the talk around it, I think it's like as long as I can continue to like walk that path and just like become undeniable for myself, at least in certain points, like people will it'll be the best way I can represent quote unquote our community and like honor my parents and like you know what I mean, like and for me that's a constant process of like getting better, growing and like challenging myself more and more. So hopefully you'll just continue to see uh better, not necessarily better, but like maybe more interesting, different um like for everything I do for the rest of my life, I want people to like watch it and just be like, okay, even if you like it, if you don't dislike it, like you're like, okay, like respect, like
Yeah,
you did it, like you know what I mean. And that is what it will be next and will continue to be next for as long as I can.
that's great. Yeah, well, I wish you all the best, and I hope we get a chance to speak again in the future for your, upcoming projects. So yeah, thank you
Yes,
for joining me today, Bloom.
thank you so much.